using the subsidized fertilizer. We also need to find out the measure that the government is putting in place to ensure that the fertilizer does not go into waste. Because in my county of Taita Taveta, when we plant, we don't harvest, even when there is rain. Why? Because of human-wildlife conflict. So we want to see that working together of Ministry of Agriculture with Ministry of Tourism and KWS to ensure that if you want to mitigate on food security, then we also need to ensure that our farmers harvest the food that they plant. Our farmers are very hardworking, but when they plant, they don't harvest because their food is eaten by elephants, their food is eaten by monkeys, their food is eaten by baboons, so we're not harvesting. So we need to see all that program, how that program would work, of fertilizers, or providing fertilizers, which is subsidized, but also ensuring that the animals don't destroy the foods. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wafula.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa nafasi hii. Kitui. Na baadhi ya maswali ambayo mwenzangu Spika ameuliza ndio maswali ya wakulima wa ndengu walikuwa wanauliza kwamba ni mbolea mifuko ngapi imeletwa maeneo hayo na ni vigezo vipi walitumia kuwapa wakulima mbolea hii. Hii ni kusema kwamba katika kumbukumbu na vitabu vya wataalamu wa kilimo, ekari moja ya shamba iwapo ni la mahindi huhitaji magunia kadhaa ya mbolea. Haya ambayo wataalamu husema yameafikiwa na idara ya kilimo ama ni mbolea ambayo imekuwa inapeanwa tu kwa minajili ya kukimu kiu cha wakulima nchini Kenya. Hoja ya pili, ningependa kujua kuna maeneo ya magala nchini humu ambamo serikali imeagiza mbolea kupelekwa. Wakulima wanapochukua mbolea hii wanaitishwa pesa ama hawaitishwi pesa? Kwa sababu nimekuwa nazungumza na mkulima mmoja kutoka eneo bunge la Bumula ambamo ameenda kuchukua mbolea kwa pesa zilizostahili, lakini akaambiwa kwa sababu ya kuhifadhi gunia lake la mbolea lazima apeane shilingi 85. Sasa iwapo wakulima maskini watakuwa wanaitishwa pesa kidogo kidogo kama hii, itaweza kuafiki malengo ya serikali? Jambo la tatu ambalo vile vile ningependa kuuliza serikali, kwa sababu kuna maeneo nchini humu ambamo inajulikana fika kwamba ni vikapu vya chakula nchini Kenya. Ni magunia mangapi ya mbolea yamefika maeneo haya? Kwa mfano Trans Nzoia, Bungoma, Uasin Gishu, Kakamega, Kisii, maeneo ambayo tunajua mahindi na vyakula vinatoka, vyakula vile vya kushika tumbo, sio vyakula vya mzaa tu kupoteza muda. So tungependa tujue serikali imepeleka kule magunia ya kutosha, kwa sababu Trans Nzoia, maeneo ya Trans Nzoia, Bungoma, Kakamega, mvua imeanza kunyesha na wakulima wameanza kupanda. Sasa iwapo magunia ya mbolea ni machache, kamati ya ukulima tutakuwa tunaweka majembe yetu chini kuhakikisha kwamba wale ambao wanapaswa kufanya kazi wanaifanya kikamilifu. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, naunga mkono maoni ya seneta mwenzangu kuhusiana na mbolea nchini Kenya. Asante.
Senator Osotsi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to standing order.
Senator, you had queued here to contribute to this statement. That's why I picked your name.
I was waiting for my
I will
statement.
call you for your statement then. Just yield, I'll call you to make your request.
Okay.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to congratulate Senator for Laikipia for the clarity which is required on this important issue. Mr. Speaker, Trans Nzoia, Bungoma, Uasin Gishu, sections of Nandi, Kakamega, they need to be reassured that there will be no case of diversion or interference with this fertilizer, because they have sat back and relaxed knowing that somebody is going to support them in that particular farm input. Mr. Speaker, logistics are a nightmare. If you go to a county like Kakamega, when you ask farmers to come and collect fertilizer in Kakamega town, as they do, I was in a function in Shinyalu constituency, which is 40 kilometers away from city center, a place called Ingolomosio. So a message comes on the phone of the farmer that you have paid, come and collect fertilizer in Kakamega town. So the farmer goes from Ingolomosio to Kakamega town, he queues there, then he goes back home because the queue was too long. When he repeats again, the very discouragement, the very loss of money, then cancels out on the issue of cheaper fertilizer. Mr. Speaker, the shame of our administration is that when I was in Ingolomosio, I actually paid for two trucks to go and collect the fertilizer, then they bring at Kambiri market and the farmers could collect from there. That guy refused. He said he couldn't do it. And the farmers had the letter from the chief. I had given the chief the money to pay for the truck. May the distributor in Kakamega hear it from the Senate that the trucks that are coming from Ingolomosio to his office are meant to carry fertilizer, not to carry money to him to satisfy his appetite, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the second logistical challenge, and we don't want any enmity between my brother Wafula and myself. You go to Lugari Station, where we are disputing fertilizer, and you find that Naitiri location of Tongaren or Bungoma is in the neighborhood. So the farmers naturally cross over from Bungoma because it's nearer to come from Tongaren to Lugari than to go to their center, and they are taking away the fertilizer meant for Kakamega. Could the government put in proper logistics so that cross-county farmers do not interfere with each other to the extent that the program fails? Finally, Mr. Speaker, we would like this committee to table in this House a record of how much fertilizer was bought by the government, how much went where. We see whether the principle of equity was exercised. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mandago. Senator Oburu Odinga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I think this is an important statement being sought. Mr. Speaker, fertilizer is a very, very important ingredient in farming. And the Kenya Kwanza government has stated that they don't want to subsidize consumption, that they are going to subsidize production. And they have put fertilizer as the only factor of production which they want to subsidize. Mr. Speaker, if it is not available, then of course even that little subsidy which they are giving to production in agriculture is failing. Mr. Speaker, in agriculture, the most important factor of production is land preparation. And when the price of diesel is skyrocketing, and then you tell us that you are subsidizing fertilizer, where will I get the money to prepare my land? Mr. Speaker, again, when you say you are subsidizing fertilizer, and you are again not providing cheap seeds, the seeds are very expensive. So how do you expect this farmer in the final analysis at the end to sell his maize cheaply when all the other factors of production have not been subsidized by the state? In Siaya, our governor is subsidizing farming, land preparation. He's giving the farmers 2,000 shillings for an acre. Land preparation tractors are provided. And then grain is also given free to the farmers. I think that is one way of reducing the cost of the price of food. But, Mr. Speaker, I'm just mentioning this to say that this is a very important statement sought. Let us investigate it, but in wholesome, not just fertilizer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chirangi.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. The issue of fertilizer, especially to us who come from countries that are called the bread basket or ugali basket, is very critical. And the President and the Kenya Kwanza government, Mr. Speaker, is committed in subsidizing production over consumption. And Mr. Speaker, we still have concerns, especially during the 7 days notice that were given. We discussed with them and it extended to 30 days. Mr. Speaker, the only challenge that we are having with the issue of fertilizer, especially in Nandi County, Mr. Speaker, is the aspect of distribution. Because when you look at Nandi, we have Mosoriat, NCPP depot, we have Celia in Masab sub-county, we have Lesos, Mr. Speaker, and there is no any other part, Mr. Speaker. So the issue that we wanted with the ware receipting, and I've told Senator Linturi, the CS of Agriculture, to work on ensuring that the warehousing, because you cannot find somebody from Kambogi or Nyangori or Serem, all the way from Serem to drive all the way to Mosoriat, a number of kilometers, or even from Musasa, near Vihiga, all the way to Mosoriat, Mr. Speaker, to come and get only 2 bags of fertilizer. Mr. Speaker, I think we need to agree with the counties, Mr. Speaker, excuse me, so that we can see what we can do.
Senator Osotsi.
Mr. Speaker, is it in order for Honorable Cheregei, who is my neighbor, to claim that Musasa is in Nandi, when you know very well that Musasa is in Vihiga County? He said near Vihiga. It is not Vihiga. It is not near Vihiga. It is within Vihiga.
Yes, Mr. Speaker,
Senator Chirangi.
Senator Otsosi is a former immediate nominated member under ANC, although he ended up fighting the party and the party leader. He is new in terms of boundaries of Vihiga. There is a Musasa in Kabwareng, Mr. Speaker, in Kabwareng ward, where his opponent almost drowns him and vanquished him into political oblivion. Used to be MCA Swadi. In fact, he almost vanquished nascent political career of Senator Otsotsi. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Musasa, there is Musasa, and now, Mr. Speaker, maybe you can organize for us mileage. I'm willing to take him around the boundaries between Nandi and Vihiga. But some of us, Mr. Speaker, don't have mentality of expansionism. We respect the boundaries, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, finally, that is why I was saying the biggest challenge, Mr. Speaker, is the aspect of distribution. Today, Mr. Speaker, at around midday, I received an SMS from the one farmer in Celia, Mr. Speaker, NCPP. They are repackaging over 200 bags, and they are reducing to 30 kilos, Mr. Speaker, from initial 40 kilos of DAP, Mr. Speaker, and they are giving us 23 instead of Yara supply and others, Mr. Speaker, compared on the components of acidity of soil, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to appeal to the Ministry of Agriculture. 2020-23, the component of fertilizer is not sufficient, and it is not so good for our soil, especially in areas where they are planting maize, Kakamega, Trans Nzoia, Bungoma, parts of Kisii, Nandi, Uasin Gishu, Mr. Speaker, there is corruption that is going on. And I want to call upon that the purchase of Kenya National Trading Company, KNTC, in terms of purchasing, the distribution of fertilizer under the Ministry of Trade must be looked and be transparent, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, finally, is to appeal that the 3,500 that farmers are paying, to appeal to county governments, Mr. Speaker. You know, for example, in Nandi County, there is nothing going on in county government of Nandi. There is more of drama. To appeal to counties across the counties to create their own, even in a local center, like Aiboi Trading Center, Mr. Speaker, somewhere in Maraba Trading Center, somewhere in Kemeloi Maraba Trading Center, Mr. Speaker, somewhere in Gechek. Those small trading centers within Nandi, the county government can even be fair and create this as holding rooms, or where the farmers can pick their fertilizer and ensure, even in Chemase, Mr. Speaker, where Awasi is in Kisumu County, where we share between Kisumu and Nandi, somewhere called Mamboleo, Mr. Speaker, is let us access that in terms of access, because, Speaker, and finally, is these cane farmers, the tea farmers also need subsidized fertilizer, Mr. Speaker. So I want to assure, and Senator Oburu Odinga, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, is that, you know, even the Bible says, for us who are Christians, God only helps those who help themselves. Because if Senator Oburu Odinga says that the government should assist in preparation, the government should buy seeds, the government should buy fertilizer, Mr. Speaker, you might end up calling the government to come to your bedroom and assist you in siring your children. So what we are saying, Mr. Speaker, is that let us be ready to play our part as a nation, Mr. Speaker. And of course, Senator Oburu has said the reason he's here is because of health reasons. I accept. But I was worried since I didn't see him in Azimio rallies in Siaya. So I thought he doesn't believe in what his brother is pushing across the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Senator, what is your point of order, Senator Sots? Majority Leader, kindly yield, have your seat. What is your point of order, Senator Osotsi?
Mr. Speaker, you know this is House of Honor, and our friend here and honorable member for Nandi, he has made it a habit to use foul language on his colleagues.
Senator,
is it in order
you know exactly
for him to use that kind of language on?
Yes, but you know exactly when to rise on a point of order. You cannot let the member complete his speech, give him the latitude to say the so-called foul language, and thereafter wake up to realize that that language is unacceptable. Kindly, if you have to rise on a point of order to interrupt a speaking senator, rise it when he is actually making his speech. But under order, you just yield, Senator Osotsi, just have your seat. Just have a seat. But pursuant to Standing Order 1 of the Senate Standing Orders, indeed, Senator Chirangei, that language you used is unparliamentary, and I will allow you to come back to the dispatch, and please withdraw it.
Mr. Speaker, sir, since I can't recall the part of the statement, maybe it can be struck out. The part
where you're inviting government to bedrooms to sire.
Mr. Speaker, my apologies. I made that statement in jest. I withdraw.
Senator Mogeni.
Mr. Speaker, I first rise to thank Senator for Laikipia, Senator Kinyua, to have brought this matter to the floor of the House, because the issues raised, Mr. Speaker, resonate with the challenges, the problems my people of the county of Nyamira are facing. Mr. Speaker, Nyamira, as you know, Mr. Speaker, we are basically small-scale farmers. We don't have big farms like what Senator of Nandi has told us, those big farms. As they are small farms, they are peasant farmers. We do farming for survival, for subsistence, Mr. Speaker. Now, the challenge we have, Honorable Speaker, is that the promise that was made to farmers, that subsidized farmers was going to be made available, has really not been actualized, Mr. Speaker. We have only one cereal board in the entire of Nyamira, at Nyansiongo. That's about a few kilometers from the home of my friend, Senator of Kericho. And Mr. Speaker, the fertilizer has never been delivered to Nyamira. I don't know whether the sitting CS has totally forgotten Nyamira. And Mr. Speaker, because God loves us, God loves Nyamira, God loves Kisii region, we have already received the short rains, Mr. Speaker, and we have planted. Now, even if the fertilizer is brought next week, how are the farmers going to use the fertilizer, Mr. Speaker? So I want to plead with those who implement the directives of the President to do them timely. And you know, when you promise, Mr. Speaker, peasant farmers, you know, when you tell them fertilizer is coming, them, they know no other language. They trust what their leaders say. So when they don't get the fertilizer, they ask us questions, and we have no answers. And then the way this thing is being implemented, Mr. Speaker, farmers are being told to go register their titles. But as you know, Mr. Speaker, in some regions like in Kisii, where we have serious pressure on land, yes, people have passed on, our parents have passed on, they have handed over land to their sons and daughters, but people don't have title deeds, Mr. Speaker. So you cannot, don't ask the farmer to produce a title deed. We just need our chiefs, assistant chiefs. We also have county government officials to have a register of farmers, Mr. Speaker.
What is your point of order, Senator Boni?
Could the senator for Nyamira substantiate his allegations that the government is demanding that farmers produce title deeds? Because we also come from counties, we grow maize, fertilizer is being given, none of our farmers is being asked to present a title deed. Why are you misleading the House? Why are you inciting the public? Or are you confusing the Senate to be an Azimio rally meant to fight for a handshake that we are not going to give your baba?
Senator Mogeni, kindly.
Mr. Speaker, you know, if there are people I had a lot of admiration for, he's a senator of Kakamega, Senator Halwale. And even when I served as chair of Law Society, his son, who is a lawyer, was my friend. Respected senator, he has served for long, and we still have a lot of admiration for you. And there are statements I don't expect to hear from Senator Halwale, like telling me, senior counsel, Senator for Nyamira, that I'm confusing my contribution with an Azimio rally, Mr. Speaker. You know, Mr. Speaker, there are some, and I challenge Dr. Halwale, you know, you have that title, doctor. You know, Mr. Speaker, there are things you may say, and the members of the medical profession may actually recall the title, doctor. So what I'm saying here, Mr. Speaker, is something that is happening at my county, and I want to challenge Senator for Kakamega. If you think I'm not serious, I want to challenge you to join me over this weekend. I'll fuel your car. We go with you to Nyamira, and you'll see the issues I'm raising here are serious and affecting the farmers in Nyamira. We are not in a rally, we are debating. And I like the excitement in the House this afternoon, where we are raising serious issues. And Senator, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to inform Senator Halwale that I've risen up to raise issues that are facing farmers in Nyamira. And you're now making the impression, which I don't expect to hear from the Wood administration, that you are receiving preferential treatment in Kakamega, other than the Nyamira farmers. And it's you now is inciting my people, because I'm going to tell them that the whip, the Senator of Kakamega, has informed the House that the farmers in Kakamega are getting preferential treatment other than the stringent requirements that farmers in Nyamira are facing. This is the reality, Mr. Speaker. and as the people's representatives, we raise these issues, Mr. Speaker, so that those who are watching these proceedings, the CS agriculture, can come up with interventions. We all want our farmers to get fertilizer so that they can plant. When I go to Nyamira, Mr. Speaker, I want to enjoy ugali from my neighbors. I want when Senator Halwale makes a visit to Nyamira, I want you to come and meet a health population, Mr. Speaker. That's why we are raising this issue. So, Mr. Speaker, the issue of transportation is also a problem because farmers are expected to travel from Matongo, that's about 38 kilometers, the farthest point, all the way to Nyansiongo to come and pick 2 kilos of fertilizer. Doesn't make economic sense, Mr. Speaker. So there should be a very good partnership between the national government and the county government so that these fertilizer are taken to the sub-counties. Like in Nyamira, we have 4 sub-counties. Instead of storing that fertilizer at the cereal board, keep it at the sub-counties. Then the extension officer serving under the county can help us in the distribution. Request the county governments to avail vehicles to extend this fertilizer to the farmers. They don't need to travel on motorcycles coming to look for the fertilizer. So I'm appealing, Mr. Speaker, that when you commit this statement to the committee, I seek leave, Mr. Speaker, to ride on this statement of the Senator for Laikipia, so that this can also be extended, Mr. Speaker, to the plight that is facing farmers in Nyamira County, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Senator Aaron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to join the rest of my colleagues in just making a small contribution on this statement by our colleague, Senator John Kinyua. Mr. Speaker, you know that this is one of the signature programs of the Kenya Kwanza administration that we did promise to the people of Kenya, and they granted us the opportunity to implement that. While our predecessors, the handshake administration, used to subsidize consumption, we thought it wise, and economists worldwide will agree with us, that the proper thing to do is to subsidize production, make it possible to produce cheaply, and therefore eventually ordinary citizens will benefit by buying cheap products at the shop. That's why, Mr. Speaker, I'm a bit perturbed listening to many of the contributions of our colleagues, and you realize many of them haven't paid a keen attention, haven't been keen actually in following up this particular program. You are sure, if you listen to the senators that have contributed, that perhaps some of them haven't followed through to ensure, to understand first what the program is about, know the number of cereals and produce boards, stores that are in their counties. Many of the contributions, Mr. Speaker, are what you'd call armchair. Because, Mr. Speaker, in the unfortunate event that say you represent a particular county that hasn't been featured in this particular program, Mr. Speaker, then I cannot wait to just make an ordinary contribution to a statement that has been sought by another senator, Mr. Speaker. By now, I'd already be at the offices of the CS for Agriculture and demand for more prudent answers than just making a contribution in the Senate, Mr. Speaker, because I know for a fact that this program is being run across the country, and farmers are being asked, number one, to register, and number two, most importantly, Mr. Speaker, to select the nearest NCPB store to them. I agree, Mr. Speaker, with the colleagues who have said that perhaps in most cases, and I've seen this problem, Mr. Speaker, even in my own county of Kericho, that because of the fast structure of rolling out this program, Mr. Speaker, that the last mile element either isn't properly thought out or is too expensive for the administration, and something that you want to urge them to reconsider. Can they partner with the county governments, Mr. Speaker, so that these products are taken to the final or the closest doorstep to many of our farmers, at least at sub-county level, Mr. Speaker? Because, like has been observed by many of our colleagues, there are farmers that have to travel very far distances to go and collect 2, 3, 4, or 5 bags of fertilizer, such that at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, they end up spending money which they had otherwise saved, Mr. Speaker. But I appreciate and I celebrate the fact that colleague senators are paying keen interest in this particular program. That's why I agree with the sentiments. I think it was Senator Jones Mwaruma of Taita Taveta who urged the Committee of Agriculture to not only consider what has been spoken about by our colleague, Senator of Laikipia, demanding for answers for Laikipia County, but let them give us a holistic answer of what has been done in each and every of our counties in this republic, Mr. Speaker, because our farmers need to reap the full benefits of this program, because this is a program that is being run for all the farmers of the Republic of Kenya, whether they are known farmers or unknown, because for one reason or the other, I think I had somebody contribute and say there is what they consider to be standard food, and I think in their contribution, Mr. Speaker, they said there are some that are producing things that are close to food but are not properly food. A farmer is a farmer, Mr. Speaker, and this is about production. This is about ensuring that at the end of the day, in the fullness of time, by the end of 1 year in office of this administration, farmers are able to buy unga cheaply. Forget about those fake programs that used to run under the handshake administration, Mr. Speaker, where we used to walk around the country, and when you ask about 100 shilling of unga, you can see the defenders of the millers are happy now, Mr. Speaker.
What is the point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I think we are all Kenyans and we have studied history. There have been 5 administrations. I do not recall in the history of this country an administration called the handshake administration. The last administration was a Jubilee administration, with the president being Uhuru Kenyatta and the deputy president being William Samoei Ruto. Could he tell us, substantiate, which is this handshake administration that I may not be aware of?
Majority Leader, kindly explain, be candid.
You know, Mr. Speaker,
what do you mean by handshake?
It is another dark administration that came through some shadowy organization called the handshake, Mr. Speaker, that replaced a democratically elected government with some kangaroo arrangement that were made and cooked at Harambee House, Mr. Speaker. Since that administration came into office, and that's what I was explaining, you would hear of programs such as the one that I'm explaining, where you're told that millers have been called and they've been paid to subsidize unga for mwananchi. But at the end of the day, it was just an arrangement for big boys in this town where they'd make away with money, but you would never find that unga on the shelves. This program, Mr. Speaker, is to eradicate such scandals from this country, Mr. Speaker. And that's why I want to urge the Committee of Agriculture to furnish this House, Mr. Speaker, with answers.
What is your point of order, Senator Osotsi?
Mr. Speaker, I think we are degenerating as a House. When we allow the majority leader, someone who is holding a higher position in this House, to make very reckless statements which are not substantiated, and even use foul languages like kangaroo. I think, Mr. Speaker, we must take this House to where it belongs. We cannot allow this kind of talk in this respected chamber, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader, in as much as you may want to express your opinion, just express it in a parliamentary language.
But
kindly proceed.
Mr. Speaker, with tremendous respect to you, I don't think there is any unparliamentary word that I have used. Kangaroo.
Kangaroo is an English word.
It's an English word. From here, Mr. Speaker, what I will do, Mr. Speaker, to save this House from such future interruptions, when we finish the chamber discussion today, I will take my friend Osotsi and walk him down Mamangina Street. There is a very nice bookshop there called the Prestige Bookshop. I'll buy him a dictionary, Mr. Speaker. From there, he will never raise such points of orders, because he'll be able to establish what is proper point of order and what isn't, Mr. Speaker. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, in my conclusion, I conclude that this is a...
Majority Leader, as you conclude your thoughts, kindly refrain from using foul language, demeaning language, and unparliamentary language. Proceed and conclude your...
Speaker, and I don't intend to do that. Worst of all, on a good friend like Senator Osotsi. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, I conclude by saying the following, that I look forward to the Minister of Agriculture, Senator Mithika Linturi, appearing before this House, and these are such matters that do not even invite the Committee of Agriculture alone to come and listen to the answers, but it calls on all of us as senators representing the various counties to come and listen to how this program is being rolled out, because it's extremely too important to be allowed to fail, and the issues that colleague senators are raising are of extreme importance, Mr. Speaker. It's important for him to come and ensure that this program is properly streamlined and farmers enjoy the full benefit of this program. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Beatrice.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to add my voice to the noble discussion about the provision of fertilizers that has been brought by Senator Kinyua. Mr. Speaker, as I do this, I only want to emphasize that the fertilizers must be provided in a timely manner so that they may be useful to our farmers. But Mr. Speaker, on top of the fertilizers, there is the issue of extension officers, agricultural extension officers that are supposed to be offered by our county governments. Honorable Speaker, as you share with our farmers back in the county, there's always lack of extension officers that are able to advise our farmers in a timely manner so that they're able to go over the challenges that they have with farmers. I appreciate the fact that seeds is also another issue, and on that level, I want to appreciate the Governor of Homa Bay, Her Excellency Governor Gladys Wanga, who was able to provide seeds to the farmers of Homa Bay County in a timely way. The only concern I would have as a person that comes from Homa Bay is that I hope the seeds, once procured and distributed, were distributed to the right farmers, and the right farmers got the seeds. But, Honorable Speaker, the issue of extension officers is an issue that our counties should take note of, along with other services that are offered by the agriculture and other related ministries. Honorable Speaker, you might be aware that in these days, unlike the past, our people, in order to get extension officers or even veterinary officers for that matter, basically just go for people who are privately practicing rather than services that should be offered by the government. So, Honorable Speaker, I support this statement. And Honorable Speaker, as I end and sit down, I want to be of little help to the senator, the Nandi senator, who has, over time, has a lot of difficulties on how to refer to the enigma, the Azimio leader. Other than refer to the Azimio leader as the brother, because you've been struggling over a period of time, rather than refer to him as the brother of Senator Oburu, which is the very little part that Kenyans are interested in, I would be of help to you, Senator. Refer to him as the father of devolution if you want. If you want, you could refer to him as the people's president. If you want, you can refer to him as an enigma, and the adjectives continue. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Sigei.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Well, Mr. Speaker, one of the major promises that the Kenya Kwanza government gave to the people of Kenya when it was campaigning was to reduce the cost of living, reduce the cost of agriculture production, and enhance the source of income to the lowest level of the society, and that in most cases is the farmer. I want to appreciate the statement being sought by the Honorable Senator from Laikipia, who I would have expected him to do the statement in Kiswahili, because I had encouraged myself to do it today, but unfortunately opted to do the language that I'm responding to now on. I come from a county that agriculture is one of the major And I would say, Mr. Speaker, in the course of our economic forum, which was a program that was the main source of the vote that we attained, we had agriculture being voted in as 60% of what the people of Bomet do. Therefore, when a program like this one is facilitated by the government, number one, Mr. Speaker, it is honoring the commitment and the promise it made to the people, and the challenges that have come with it are among those which are in the teething problems. Mr. Speaker, subsidizing the fertilizer from a price of 6,500 to 3,500 is in itself an achievement. And I would wish to support the request for additional support in the context of availing the fertilizer closer to the people, where if it were possible, which I know it is, because the Kenya Kwanza government is a government that works on consultation and listens to its people. We devolve beyond the NCPB stations and liaise with the county governments to ensure that even at the sub-county level, farmers are able to register, farmers are able to also easily access this fertilizer product, because at the moment, we previously, over a few weeks ago, crying over the dry season. It is now a rainy season in most parts of the country, and it is going to be prudent and available for the people of Kenya to ensure that they support their growth both in economic and supply of food, because food, Mr. Speaker, is one of the major factors that gives our people better in terms of health, production, and also as a source of income. So I appreciate and I would like to support the statement, and where the relevant committee will have been given the opportunity to deal with this, including summoning the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture to this House, we will get appropriate answers and also support in ensuring that this program is successful, both in terms of the documentation that has been put in place and also supporting the Kenyans all over the country to benefit from this very noble and important program. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to the statement by the Honorable Senator Kinyua from Laikipia County. I thank you.
Honorable Senators, allow me to interrupt debate on this very important matter to make the following communication. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon, a visiting delegation from Koru Girls High School in Kisumu County. The delegation comprises 7 teachers and 161 students who are in the Senate for a one-day study visit. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I will allow the Senator for Kisumu, the Honorable Tom Ojenda, to make brief welcoming remarks. Thereafter, we resume debate on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Let me take this opportunity to welcome the 161 students and the 7 teachers from Koru Girls to Senate. I believe they have had time to tour the National Assembly, and this being a bicameral system, they now know that the role of National Assembly is to enact legislation that touches on national questions, while Senate deals with devolved structures of the 47 counties. I am sure that they've also had time to study the history of Senate and to generally understand the governance as divided amongst the 3 arms of government. Mr. Speaker, sir, I just want to encourage the students that when they visit Senate and other institutions, that their duty and obligation as students is to ensure that they not only learn, but this should serve as a lesson that the Senate is a house of possibilities, as is the National Assembly, and that for those who aspire, that it's a possibility that there would be senators in future or members of parliament, and learning from this experience, they should try to do their best as they scale the heights of education through high school and to the university. They should also learn, Mr. Speaker, sir, that education is the only key to success, because without learning, you cannot undertake or you cannot join certain professions in this country. So I welcome them, and I hope that when they return to Koru, and that is in Moroni where my home is, they will have equipped themselves with vast knowledge, not just because they are from a rural constituency, but because I am sure this is one of their first trips that they've done to Senate, because I'm seeing them for the first time. So welcome, ladies, and welcome teachers to Senate, and always remember that the only space that is there in education is the space at the top, because it is all taken down here, as you can see, and unless you aspire to be better than yourself, you'll find yourself in this sea of unemployment where you have many Kenyans. So do your best so that you rise above those in the sea of unemployment. And you do that by choosing interesting professions. Choose professions where you are likely to succeed. Choose professions that are of interest, and learn to be different. When you are different, you'll always succeed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you very much, Senator Professor Tom Ojenda. Senator Kipkiror William Cheptumo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I arise to support the statement by the Laikipia Senator, Senator John Kinyua. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the President for initiating this program of availing subsidized fertilizers to our farmers. Mr. Speaker, the philosophy behind this program, as we all know, is to enable our farmers access the necessary inputs, Mr. Speaker, for them to undertake farming. Mr. Speaker, farmers struggle to achieve and to buy the fertilizers and the seeds, and even to do the farming itself, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the reduction of the cost of the fertilizers will go a long way in enabling our farmers, Mr. Speaker, to undertake farming, and therefore we have high productivity in our farms. Mr. Speaker, whereas I appreciate the President in initiating the program of supplying fertilizers, or rather fertilizers which is under the subsidized program, Mr. Speaker, the seeds is equally another item I would like to request the government to also reconsider, so that, Mr. Speaker, you subsidize the fertilizers and also the seeds. That will go a long way in helping our farmers. Mr. Speaker, Baringo County, unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, was not among the counties that was to benefit from this program, the initial counties that was earmarked. Mr. Speaker, I have been able to find out, and I have never been able to know, Mr. Speaker, why Baringo was not included in the first instance. Perhaps there is a perception, Mr. Speaker, that Baringo, which is true, we are 60% arid and semi-arid. But, Mr. Speaker, let me inform the country and this House that the 35% to to 40% of Baringo, Mr. Speaker, is high potential agricultural area. The entire of Eldama Ravine, Mr. Speaker, the entire of almost 70% of Mokoti constituency, 60% of Baringo Central, almost 40, 30, no, about 50% to 60% of Baringo North, part of Tiate, a big portion of Baringo South. So, Mr. Speaker, I think that was the perception that existed then. But, Mr. Speaker, I am happy that after intervention, because we had a moment to share this with the head of state, as leaders of Baringo, I am happy now from the report I have is that, and I also spoke to my colleague, my former colleague, the Minister for Agriculture, that, Mr. Speaker, Baringo now will be part of these counties to benefit from this program. Mr. Speaker, it is important that we facilitate our farmers, we enable them to undertake farming. Because, Mr. Speaker, as said earlier, the subsidies provided for initially was not addressing the challenge we have. So food production in our counties, Mr. Speaker, is important. If we do this and we do irrigation, we do the dams that our government, Mr. Speaker, currently is planning to do. Like in Baringo, Mr. Speaker, one is we do Chemasusu Dam, we do Beregai Dam, we do Amaya Dam, and we do the other dams which we have agreed to do with the government, Mr. Speaker, and we undertake irrigation. Mr. Speaker, I want to assure you that this country will be self-sufficient in terms of food production, Mr. Speaker. And I think this is the right way to go. Finally, Mr. Speaker, as we provide this subsidized fertilizers, and as government perhaps thinks of providing subsidized seeds, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Livestock should be able, when Mr. Speaker was growing up those days, we used to have extension officers in our villages, in our farms. Today, Mr. Speaker, we don't have those kind of officers in our farms. It is high time, Mr. Speaker, the government again continues to look at this holistically. And I think, Mr. Speaker, this is the only way, because our country is an agricultural country, and if we invest more in this, Mr. Speaker, our country will not be importing food, but we are going to be self-sufficient in our supplies, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague, Honorable John Kinyua, for this statement, and I want to request my friend, Minister for Agriculture, to ensure that Baringo, a county that is faced with challenges, Mr. Speaker, of insecurity, is given enough fertilizers so that every farmer in Baringo shall benefit and ensure that we have good supplies for our people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support.
Thank you, Senator Cheptumo. Senator Osotsi Godfrey Atieno, the Senator for Vihiga.
Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education regarding the status of Kaimosi Friends University after being awarded a charter on the 2nd August 2022. In the statement, the committee should, 1, table a comprehensive report on the reasons for the inordinate delay in implementing the charter and guaranteeing maximum benefit of an accredited university legal rights, including full funding and the award of degrees. 2, shed light on the excessive delay in appointing a substantive vice-chancellor as required by Section 16 of the University Act, as well as the appointment of a university council. And finally, clarify whether Kaimosi Friends University will be funded as a fully fledged university in the anticipated second supplementary budget, and thereafter the financial year budget for the financial year 2023 2024. The second statement, Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Lands, Environment and Natural Resources regarding the harvesting of cypress trees at Kabiri Forest in Vihiga County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, table a comprehensive report on the non-involvement of the local community in cypress timber harvesting, despite their participation in the planting of the said trees and other conservation activities. 2, provide a report on the procurement of tree or timber harvesting contracts, indicating the farms and individuals awarded the tender. And 3, Mr. Speaker, state the measures put in place by the Kenya Forest Service, if any, to ensure that the local community participates in the timber harvesting for economic empowerment and subsistency of the forest conservation effort in the county. Mr. Speaker, allow me to make one comment on this. This is a very serious issue, and communities living in the area have planned to engage the administration in the area on this issue, because people in the area have been involved in tree planting in that forest. But when it comes to harvesting of the timber, you find people from outside the county having been brought in, given the contracts to harvest timber, while the locals who participated in the planting of the timber have been left there. So this problem is causing a major challenge in the area, which I think the relevant institution, which in this case is Kenya Forest Service, must take cognizance and give a solution to the problem.
Well, I wanted to intervene because you already debated me on statement, which you are seeking for statement.
I had asked you to give me 1 minute to comment on it.
Which was beyond the time that you had requested for by submitting.
Very well.
Thank you.
Very well,
You
Mr.
may
Speaker.
yield. I'm seeing there are 2 requests. Senator Manzo Daniel Kitonga, and honorable members, we will also limit because we need to move to the next order paper. So go ahead, Senator.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the statement on education and about the Kaimosi Friends University College. Mr. Speaker, when this charter was awarded, it was not just awarded to this particular university, but to quite a number of other universities, and all of them have not been actualized, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, university education is very important and is the equalizer of Kenyans, and especially children from disadvantaged homes and disadvantaged communities. Mr. Speaker, when a charter is given and its authorization means that a vice chancellor is appointed, it means a budget is appropriated, and also it means that the status of the university changes, the awarding of degrees, so that quite a number of students could benefit and expand the space of education in this country. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, this has not happened. It has caused a delay, and there is no indication as to when it will happen and whether such universities will be operationalized. Mr. Speaker, that crushes our spirit because as Makueni County, we've been looking forward into a university of that status, and especially a public one. But now, if the already existing one whose charter has been given have not been operationalized, it means then we are likely to be more disadvantaged as the people of Makueni or other parts of the country, and also our own children. There are quite a number of students transiting from high school to university. We have 100% transition
allegedly from primary school to secondary school. Then you need another transition to university. What happens, Mr. Speaker, when this university's charter has not been operationalized and there is no time frame as to when it will be made operational and to when this university will start awarding degrees or will prepare? Mr. Speaker, I think it's an important statement. It needs to be activated. The Minister of Education needs to tell us what is happening. And also, you are finding challenges, Mr. Speaker, even with the CBC and many other complications in the education sector. I hope this is going to be honored the fastest possible. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Halwale Boni.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Senator of Vihiga. Kaimosi is one of the historical centers of development in our community. And therefore, I thank the government for elevating the institution into a university, and I would like further clarity on the fate of Kaimosi TTC. Is the TTC going to fade off, or is going to continue offering diplomas pari passu? My second comment, Mr. Speaker, is on the important statement about the forest. We would like the government to be clearer. We have since discovered in this era of negative climatic change that allowing plantation forest within natural forest like Kaimosi forest ends up destroying the natural forest. Is it going to be, going forward, still the policy of the government that they allow plantation forest in Kaimosi at the risk of killing the natural forest? And finally, Mr. Speaker, we would like the statement to also assure us, people who come from the Kaimosi forest area, Kakamega forest area, Malaba forest area, Nandi forest area, and Bunyala forest area, we would like to be assured that the current recruitment of forest rangers, affirmative action will be offered to youth from those aforementioned areas, because they are the ones whose parents, grandparents have been preserving this forest. There would be no reason why, for example, and with due respect to Senator Kiptumo, why youth from the arid Baringo would be competing with these children whose parents have been preserving this forest. Could we be assured of affirmative action, more jobs for those children?
Senator Beatrice Akinyi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I only want to add my voice to the one singular statement by Senator Godfrey Ososi about the harvesting of cypress trees at Kibiri Forest in Vihiga County. Honorable Speaker, this is a serious concern because as a country, we are grappling with the percentage of forest cover, and we are grappling with the effort. The government is making effort of planting over 15 billion, if I can remember, trees. So if we have a situation where a group of people are given the express permission that is not checked by the local people to cut down trees, and the people are not involved, Honorable Speaker, this is very pathetic. In this statement, Honorable Speaker, we would like to see the commitment that has been made for reforestation of the same Kibiri forest. Honorable Speaker, why I got so concerned is because in my county where I've come from, there's the Ruma National Park that a number of cartels were, few years ago, were given the blanket check to cut down the whole forest. As we talk, Honorable Speaker, and this is the only forest that houses the roan antelope, a species of the antelope that is only found in the Ruma Park the world over. A number of people were given permission, I assume, to cut down the forest. At that point, there were talks of commitments that were made to replant on a afforestation program. Honorable Speaker, up to now, the forest remains bare. Our animals are suffering, and this is a forest park that has been very attractive to tourists, both local and foreign visitors, Honorable Speaker. Along with the Ruma National Park is the Kodera forest that was equally cut down by the same cartels. Honorable Speaker, this must not go on, and I support this statement by Senator of Vihiga County.
Senator David Wakoli Wafula, 1 minute on this one.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Yale ambayo tunaona yakiendelea katika maeneo mbalimbali humu Kenya ya kukata miti, na ukataji huu ni maeneo ambayo yametajika jinsi umesikia. Nadhani ni mpango ambao mabepari wa kisiasa wako nao kuhakikisha maeneo fulani ya humu nchini yanapoteza urithi wake. Kwa mfano, misitu ya Kaimusi, kiitikadi na kijamii, mila na desturi za Watiriki hufanyika katika misitu hii, na haiwezekani kupata watu kuja tu na mashine kukata miti pasipo kukubaliana na washikadau maeneo haya. Misitu ya Malava, misitu ya Mlima Elgon. Mimi naomba kwamba iwapo kuna njama ya kiserikali ama wale waliomo serikali na mafidhuli wanabiashara, sisi kama maseneta kutoka maeneo yetu tupambane na wao kule mashinani. Kwa sababu mama binti seneta amesema itakuwaje miti ikatwe na hakuna upanzi wa miti unaoendelea hadi sasa? Ni Kenya gani tunaishi, Mheshimiwa Spika, ambamo mtu amekaa Nairobi anatia sahihi barua ya kukata miti Nyanza, na mwenyewe hajui watu wa Nyanza wanaishi namna gani, wameumia kivipi, wana uhusiano upi na miti ile na mazingira haya? Mimi naomba serikali na naomba jumba hili la Senate kwamba iwapo sisi kama serikali tumeamua kwamba tunapanda miti, haipaswi mpaka sasa tusikie watu wanaenda misitu yetu kukata miti, ili hali hata ule mwito ambao rais ametoa hatujafika nusu ya yale ambayo tunaahidi wa Kenya kwamba tutapanda. Sasa mimi naomba jumba la Senate na kamati inayohusika na misitu na mali asili tujikite katikati ya mambo haya na tuhakikishe kwamba urithi wa watu wetu ambao umelindwa kwa miaka na mikaka haishambuliwi na watu ambao wanaona pesa peke yake na haoni maisha ya wanyama pale ndani, haoni urithi wa kitamaduni pale ndani, haoni uborefu wa mazingira na hewa safi katika maeneo yetu. Na hivi nikimalizia, hii ndio miti imetusaidia sisi watu wa mkoa Magharibi na Bonde la Ufa kupata mvua wakati unaostahili. Sasa iwapo tutakata miti hii awamu yetu ya siasa sasa, siku zijazo tutaambia watu wetu nini? Kwamba tuliungana na mafidhuli kukata miti kwa sababu ya matumbo yetu? Mimi napinga na nahusiana kabisa na hoja ya Mheshimiwa Sotsi kwamba hatutakubali miti ambayo ilipandwa na mababu zetu kushambuliwa na watu ambao hawakuwepo, lakini njaa imewaleta kwetu. Tutapambana nao kwa udi na uvumba. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker.
Members, honorable members, there being no other statements, call the next order.
Order number 8, the Natural Resources Benefit Sharing Bill, Senate Bills number 6 of 2022, second reading, division.
Honorable members, we do not have sufficient numbers for division, and we shall therefore defer this order. Next order.
Order number 9, the County Vocational Education and Training Bill, Senate Bills number 3 of 2022, second reading.
The Honorable Senator Moses Kajwang, who is the mover of this bill, is not in the House. We shall also defer this. Next order, please.
Order number 10, motion, provision of free sanitary towels to end period poverty.
The motion is also sponsored and moved by the Honorable Senator Gloria Woba. She's not in the House. This also be deferred. Call the next order, please.
Order number 11, motion, the doping menace threatening Kenya's impeccable global reputation in athletics.
Honorable Senators, this is a motion which we are resuming debate, and the debate in itself was interrupted on the 9th of March 2023. The mover, Honorable Senator Samson Cherargei, you have got 11 minutes to continue with moving your motion. So you may work within the 11 minutes so that you conclude in this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I was continuing last time to say, issues of doping continue to become soft underbelly in our sports fraternity, not only in athletics, but also across many other sports like football, any other form. You have to appreciate the fact that most young people, especially from North Rift where I come from, Kisii, Nyamira, Mount Kenya region, when you wake up 5 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning, they are running in groups. Mr. Speaker, they are not night runners, and they are not part of night runners, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, the runners who also run in Nairobi in the stadium very early in the morning are not athletes. They are just losing weight because of the recommendation of doctors, or they want to acquire what we call summer bodies. Mr. Speaker, this issue of WADA, World Anti-Doping Agency, Athletics Integrity Unit, the issue of Anti-Doping Agency in Kenya has left Kenya at precarious situation, Mr. Speaker. So, Speaker, sir, I know there are students, I think, from Koru Girls, and most of them are also athletes, Mr. Speaker. And they should play their trade, be it football, netball, athletics, cleanly. Because, Mr. Speaker, this scheme of corruption, where people want to make riches quickly, is they are using substance that will add, Mr. Speaker, into their performance. And therefore, the future generation that is sitting before us in the gallery of the beautiful school of Koru Girls Secondary School in Kisumu, I know a number of them are maybe athletes, sportsmen, sports girls that we wish them. Mr. Speaker, in the recent past, the Kenya's athletics and this credibility of Kenyan athletes, Mr. Speaker, we don't reach a situation when we win gold. No one believes, Mr. Speaker. Like, for example, we were risking an international ban where over 25 athletes hit with sanctions, 19 active cases pending as of 2022 last year alone. And I want to, at this point, thank His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Arap Ruto, and the government of Kenya Kwanza for intervening, because we were risking banning, Mr. Speaker, like Russia and other countries, where for the next 3 years, and it would have dented our credibility as one of the giants of athletics, where we are the colossus, we globetrot with the pride of being the best in athletics, Mr. Speaker. Among the top names of the ban in the recent are 2021 Boston Marathon champion Diana Kipyogei and mountain racer Mark Kangogo, alias also Rita Chepta, multiple Chicago and Boston Marathon winner, and Jemima Sumgong, who won the Rio Olympic title in 2016, sprinter Mark Otieno Odhiambo, recent Porto Marathon winner Alice Chepkemboi Kimutai. Mr. Speaker, these are some of the athletes that are banned. But, Mr. Speaker, also ADAC and WADA has been accused of spying, Mr. Speaker, sir, on these athletes, where athletes have conversed, and there was an interview, I don't know whether it was KTN or which station was carrying, where some of the athletes are saying They refused to remove money. Athletics Kenya, Integrity Athletics Unit, Anti-Doping Agency, and World Anti-Doping Agency officials colluded to, even without listening to their pleas and affecting the principles of natural justice. The common drugs that are being used, Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy I can see Senator Eddie Oketch, after an eventful Friday or Saturday hosting the Azimio One Kenya Alliance leader, I can see he's back to serving the people of Migori. I think he got carried away, but it's good to have him back. And he's saying that on Monday there is an holiday, which is illegal, Mr. Speaker. I'm just welcoming you, my brother. The most commonly abused drugs are this.
What is your point of order, Senator Eddie?
Mr. Speaker, I just got to this house. I haven't spoken since the house started. Is it in order to be quoted anywhere in the answer on things I haven't said in this house? Like Chiragay is saying that I've said something I didn't say in this house.
Very well, Senator Chiragay. You heard Senator Eddie. Although
Mr.
Senator
Speaker,
Eddie, you are being recognized for coming into the House by the Honorable Senator.
Yes, I was
did
just
not
welcoming.
make any comments as to a statement you have made in the House.
Yes, Senator, I was welcoming Senator Eddie, my younger brother, who is still running the ropes, back to the House. And I'm happy he has not joined Badwagon. You know, Azimio One Kenya Alliance, except my sister, are strategically boycotting the House. But they will keep boycotting, but I can assure them that they will boycott until Jesus comes back, but the business must continue. Mr. Speaker, the most commonly abused drugs are two, namely Mr. Speaker, there is allegations that Monday has been declared a public holiday. It is unlawful, it is illegal, it is unconstitutional, and of course, how the procedure of declaring a public holiday is known. So every Kenyan who will not report to work, they will face serious repercussions. Let those who want to boycott, and they should also boycott even taking their salary for that day because of not working. Mr. Speaker, the most commonly abused drugs are norastrone. I needed to get this name, so allow me to read norandrosterone and trimisonol acetinone, mostly used for weight loss, muscle building, and endurance. So when you see somebody walking around like a cabbage, Mr. Speaker, the cabbage, you know this one has used these drugs. And you know there is craze of losing weight in this Nairobi. There is craze of losing, adding to Mr. Speaker. Take another point on the issue of raw coaches and agents.
Senator Chiragay, there is a point of order. What is your point of intervention, Senator Eddie?
Mr. Speaker, I rise on the point of order number 40. That states that at any given point of proceedings in this House, if any of the senators identify that there's no quorum in the House, they might raise with you, Mr. Speaker. I plead with you to check whether there's quorum in the House, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, I have ascertained that we do not have quorum in the House, and I therefore ask that the quorum bell be rung for 5 minutes. Meanwhile, Senator Chiragay, stand down. Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 41(2)A, there being no quorum, the Senate stands adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, 15th March 2023 at 2:30 p.m. Honorable Cherargei, you will have 6 minutes to continue.